Okay, hello and welcome. This is video number 3 of 4 on my creating an assignment in Google Classroom video series. And this one's about creating new material. So if you watched the first two, you would know that I am passionate about the idea that that we should be creating assignments that are totally self-contained, right? It should be like a private island with everything you would need to survive for a year kind of thing. If you're asking students to do something in your assignment, every link, every document, every example, every supporting video should be in that assignment, in my opinion. So to look to again, just to refresh you, if you're taking a break or just coming into video number 3 without having seen the other two, this is an example from my housing and design class. This is what I was trying to do to create a self-contained environment. So I created my housing styles module. I gave 6 sets of instructions where I said, step 1, review the textbook chapter on housing styles. Step 2, watch my presentation video, which is this one right here. I recorded it and uploaded it to YouTube. Watch the YouTube clip on housing styles, this one right here. And then number 4, I even broke down the point values. I said for 9 points, complete this house styles quiz. And what for this particular assignment, what they're being asked to do is visit this address in people I have no idea whose houses they are, but in Google Street View, they are houses that are built with a certain style, and they had to go to that house in Google Street View and then identify from the drop-down menu the type of house that it is. Number 5, take a picture of a house in your neighborhood and upload it and tell me what style of house it is. And number 6, for 12 points, do this other quiz right here. So that was my way of assessing and expecting them to have reviewed all of this content, looked at the chapter questions. And this is the slideshow that I would have normally presented had we been in school and not on sort of lockdown. So I allowed them to just read through exactly the slides that I would have provided in class and I would have lectured on. And so they can read and peruse them at their leisure. All the materials here. So there's no reason why they couldn't do these 2 quizzes and walk in their neighborhood and take a picture. And get 100% because everything they would possibly need is contained right here. So this is sort of what I'm advocating for. And so today in this video, what we are going to do is we're going to create a new assignment. So create an assignment we're going to example assignment 2. We're going to make this one worth 77 points. Make it due on the 18th. No, that's going to cause people stress over there in my Google Classroom. On the 26th, we're going to give assignments of ABC, the instructions rather of ABC. And now what we're going to do is in the previous video, we added pre-existing content. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create some content. So here we can create a document, slide sheet, basically all the same options that you would be used to seeing here. Oops. Right in your Google Drive, when you're creating a document. All those same options are available here. So I guess the important distinction, I maybe want to make sure I phrase this correctly. The important distinction is if you create a file in, if you create a file in Google Drive, what's going to happen is that file will be there and existing for you forever and available to you to use however you wish. If you are going to create a file here, like a document here, that document, it does exist in your Google Drive, but it creates a separate document. It's hard to explain. I guess what I would say, I would warn against using this set of features. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but the problem you're going to run into is that these documents are sort of unique to this assignment, to this Google Classroom, and not sort of like a universal thing. When you create them in Google Drive, you're creating them sort of to be able to, you could just share it via email, or you know what I mean? It's not just like limited to this Google Classroom assignment. So my personal preference and my recommendation to you is to create your files here in, let's say, your English 9 folder, and then add them as a pre-existing file from Google Drive. That is the way I think it should be done. However, it's important to understand this is a, a possibility. I have in a pinch been known to do this because I didn't want to go through the process of creating one in Google Drive and then linking it. So anyway, I'll go, again, I want to touch on the process, and I don't want to, deny you that knowledge. I just want to issue my personal warning that I don't think this is the most effective way. So you go to create, you can just create a document. Here we go. We can, type whatever we want to type, right? Give it a name, format it however you want. And now that document is a part of this Google Classroom. So when we assign this assignment number 2, example assignment 2, you can see this document here that I created. Voila. Okay. Again, the reason why I would warn against doing this is because when you create an assignment this way or create a document this way, that document is linked sort of to this assignment, not to your overall Google Drive. And like it's just a little bit more overwhelming to share it. You would, like, let's say for instance, I wouldn't want to create a document in here, share it with my coworker, and then have them edit it, because then what's going to be happening is they're going to be editing an assignment that I'm actively giving to my students. So I prefer to create my documents in Google Drive and then bring them into Google Classroom. I think that is the more effective way. But once again, you should understand that it's an option available to you. Creating new material, you can create quizzes this way, docs and slides and drawings. I haven't talked about quizzes. I didn't talk about them in video number 2, so this might be a good opportunity to do that. So when we go in here, let's go back to these 3 dots and click edit. Okay, and we're gonna create, and let's create a form. So when Google Classroom says forms, what it really is saying is quiz. I mean, that's probably the 97.7% of the reason why you would create a Google form. Let's be realistic, and I should touch on that briefly, why this is such a powerful concept. So as I showed you over here, this is the house styles quiz that I assign to my students. But this is what it looks like on the student end. This is the student experience, right? They type in their name, they choose, they go to these addresses and they choose a type of house. But in the back end, this is what it looks like. So this is not a tutorial on using Google Forms. So I'm not going to dwell too much on this. If you have questions about how to create a quiz, really detailed questions, I'm happy to do that. But the bottom line is, you're going to type in, the name of your quiz. You can give it a description or instructions maybe. You're going to type your questions here. How tall is Bigfoot? Right? And give your options: 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, etc. Right? You can choose your question format, so multiple choice, checkboxes, a drop-down list. One of my little cheats that I use when I'm creating a quiz is I'll create something, and you can see it over here, where all the drop-down, it's kind of like matching or multiple choice, where all the options are the same. You're going to see that they're all the same. I have them shuffled, but they're all the same options each time. So the way that looks here is I just, let me just, I can move this menu for a second here. What I do is I just duplicate the question once I have it satisfactory, and then I change the title of the question. So how long is the, right? And in doing this, I've maintained my choices, so I don't have to retype those each time. It's a really nice feature. If you can figure out a way to format your questioning in such a way that these could be used, consistently, it's a really easy way to reduce your personal workload, which I'm a big fan of. When it's a quiz, I would recommend, to avoid the problem that you're going to inevitably have where a student says, oh, I missed a question, you can make your questions required, which forces them to do it before they submit it. So that way they can't submit an unfinished quiz. So I would make every quiz question required. Now there's a few other options. So for example, you can shuffle the option order. That's what I showed you here, where you can see Cape Ann is the top choice here. but Georgian is the top choice here. French colonial is the top choice here, right? So that's that shuffle option order that we're talking about. You can also have it jump to a certain section. It's all it gets really advanced, but I'm just going to kind of briefly take you through. I would change this to be a drop down to make it a little bit cleaner. That way you can see how short the questions are on the quiz. If it's multiple choice and you have 20 choices, the quiz again is very intimidating and disorganized looking because they have to scroll through all those choices every single time. All right. So the one thing we're missing here is if somebody were to submit this, and we can preview it with this little icon right here. So the problem we're missing right now is, I mean, obviously their name, but also if somebody were to answer this, how tall is Bigfoot? 7 feet. Loch Ness Monster's probably 8 feet long. How is Google Forms going to know what the correct answer is? I mean, everybody knows the Loch Ness Monster is 8 feet long, but how does Google Forms know that? So when they submit this, how are they going to get graded? And that's something we have not dealt with yet. So we come back here. In the settings, you need to tell, you can see right over here, you need to tell Google Forms that this is a quiz. Okay? One of the cool features, once it becomes a quiz, is that you can set it so respondents are not allowed to open tabs or other applications while taking the quiz, but it's only possible on a Chromebook. So it's very functional in school, but of course, if students are working from home, you can't necessarily manage that. I didn't use this feature because I actually thought it was an unfair advantage. If students were working from a Chromebook, that they might be disadvantaged from students who were working from like a Windows or a Mac or something like, or their phones or whatever. So I actually didn't use this, but certainly if you knew that the people doing this quiz was a homogenous group, like they were all working with the same set of tools, you could turn on that lock mode to be a very powerful way of ensuring cheating and information sharing wasn't happening. So you can also release the grade now or sort of later after you look at it if you want to sort of have an element of professional judgment, or so that students, somebody else, kind of coworker of mine brought up the idea that if students are going to share their success or the answers with each other, you may not want them to know if they got it correct until later. So by doing this, you're holding it out until after everybody submitted the quiz to tell them if they got the answers right or wrong. That way nobody can know. Then eventually they can see their point values, missed questions, we can shuffle the questions if you're worried about cheating that way. You can have a progress bar if it's a particularly long quiz. And then over here, I would strongly recommend collecting email addresses. I would strongly, you don't necessarily need a receipt, but this is a really good way. That way, if for some reason, and I've done this, you forgot to ask them for their name, you can double check by having their email address, right? There's some other way of correlating who wrote the quiz. I would strongly recommend restricting people to within your organization, your educational organization, and also limiting to one response. I learned this the hard way too. Students quickly figure out that they can, if they can submit more than one, and what they'll actually do is submit a dummy assignment, a dummy quiz where they just answer everything wrong, just so they can get the answers released to them, and then they'll do it a second time with the correct answers and score 15 out of 15 or whatever. So this is an important thing to make sure you have checked off as well. You do not want them in a quiz to be able to edit after where they've submitted it. And you don't, that's up to you, I suppose, if they can see how other people have done. So once you're satisfied with all that, you come back here, and now look at this. We now have an answer key, right? Where we can assign a point value, right? Whatever you want. And also choose a correct answer. So whatever that correct answer is going to be. Bigfoot 6 feet tall. Click on answer key. Loch Ness Monster 8 feet long. This is only worth 2 points. Done. All right. So now we see it's given a total point value. You can later see responses in a spreadsheet or just as a dot, right in the menu here. And there's your quiz. So I didn't want to get too far into this. Google Forms has a really powerful set of features. This is just the surface. But when you're creating an assignment, you can create a quiz and put it right in here. That's exactly what I did here. And what's really wonderful about this, if I show you the edit feature, is we can see the responses, we can see their grades, the summary of the who scored where, frequently missed questions, and all that kind of stuff. So very powerful, very helpful, and boys makes grading and giving grades a total breeze. So I don't want to dwell on this too much, but those are your forms. Again, you do not need to create the stuff. You could have created it a long time ago as a form in here. So if we search for a second by format, type, excuse me, right here, forms, and click search. I've got all these forms. And so what you could very easily do is just bring them in from your Google Drive in this format here. And again, I would strongly advise that is to be the way to do it, right? There's an example form right there. So now we can add it this way. Oh, it's already attached. So this is the create function. Again, you can just do it the same way you would create a document in Google Drive. If it could be avoided, I would strongly recommend doing it through here. I guess when we really look at video number 3, this one here, which is the one we just finished, this wasn't so much a video on creating as it was on Google Forms, but I'll make sure I add that to the description. All right, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully it was helpful. This last video, video number 4, we're going to tackle due dates, rubrics, and feedback, and just talk about giving feedback, those due dates, and having rubrics and entering marks and stuff. So, okay, thank you very much, and we'll see you for video 4.